Hello everyone, this is Mark the Do Something Guy, and today I will be walking you through the install of my Voyoch diesel heater in my camper. This diesel heater, you have this mounting plate that is attached with these lag bolts that need to be twisted down in. And I've got them about as far as I can by finger tight, but here's a little trick for you on how to get those down good and tight. A couple of these nuts and you get them good and tight to each other. These happen to be 10 millimeter. So you snug them up, and then you can take and you can turn them like that. And when the two nuts start to turn together, then you know that your lag bolt or your stud is tight. So I'll take those two off there. I'll show you on this one here. Get this one down on here a little ways, and take the other one, get it started right there, and then you take and tighten them up to each other, and turn in the stud until it's good and tight. You can hold it back off the first one, and the second will come off nice and easy. We'll then put this back on there. And that'll hold that good and tight, whereas it wouldn't previously because I couldn't get it down all the way. And this works whether you're working on a diesel heater or on car or motorcycle. Anytime you have a stud that you need to turn in. Alright, now with all those good and snug, we can take and tighten these down. Now you can see our mounting bracket is good and strong, not going anywhere. The mounting bracket's ready to be mounted. I have taken just a piece of plywood here that I've chosen to use to mount this inside of my camper. It'll cover up the hole at the same time as making a sturdy base for this to mount to. I need to transfer these inlet and exhaust, the fuel inlet and the studs for the mounting plate. I need to get that hole marked on this here piece of plywood. So to do that, I'm going to use a piece of cardboard. I'm going to just take and crease that down to start with. That'll give me a good idea where to start cutting. I've loosely marked out where the two ports are for the exhaust gas and the intake air. I'm going to just start with my knife here. I'm just going to cut these out. Again, this is just a loose diagram to start with, and as we get it a little closer to being where we need it, we'll kind of get that, we'll make it closer then. So now we've got those two holes. We'll take and push that down on there. Need to trim that just a little more here. And I can already start to see where the fuel is, so I'm going to just go ahead and trim that out right now and connect these holes. Use a piece of plywood to cut on rather than my table. It's going to take at least that much, so we'll put that pushed on there. Now we've got our so let's get our studs. Pop those down on there. Now we've got the indents for the studs. I'll just take and widen this out here. This has holes for screws that will actually go through and into the plywood, so I'm not too worried about using the studs as anchor points. And this piece of cardboard I'm cutting out came from the box that it was shipped in, so kind of nice multi-purpose there. All right, so now that fits over there pretty well, and because we don't want our exhaust and intake touching, the intake wouldn't be a problem, but the exhaust will get hot and cause a fire, so we're going to go ahead and trim up a little more around the ends here. Now we have lots of room. Now we can put this over here on our board, and we'll be able to trace that out and cut it out. All right, as you can see here, got the hole marked out, cut out. Fits through everything, allows for plenty of space around the exhaust and intake ports. I'm going to go ahead now and attach this all to the board. For that, the kit provides these self-tapping screws, a little bit overkill since we're not tapping through any metal, but we'll go ahead and get those put in. There's one. Alright, that is now ready to be mounted inside of the camper. Looks perhaps a little bit goofy, but I'm not building a piano. Now that we have this on here, we can move into the next step, which would be putting the air intake. Now this would just make it run straight outside, but because these are a lot more efficient when they have warm air going to the intake, I want to have this run to the inside, which means that I have to route that back through there. I'm going to just kind of pencil in a mark here so I have approximately an idea where I want this. And then I'm going to take a hole saw bit that's about the same size or a touch bigger than the air intake there. We're going to line that up. Now our air intake can come through just like that, and that can sit right next to the fan air intake. All right, as you can see, we're in here under the bench where this heater is going, and I've got the heater and its mounting board sitting up on top of a small piece of plywood as a spacer, and I'm going to go ahead and do that top corner, and then I'll lift this side up and I'll put a handful of screws in. What I'm using for a screw are these 1.25" Torx head. All right guys, so you can see that's all mounted in there and screwed to the wall. All right, now we're going to take and hook up our fuel line here, and we're going to take and mount this onto the heater through its port here. Then we're going to take it back through the wall, and we'll run it the same way that the original propane line ran. So to start with this fuel line, we've got a clamp here that we need to get on the hose. So we'll slide that on, and we're going to slide that up onto the port for the fuel. Then we'll get ourselves a pair of pliers, and I'm going to use needle nose pliers on this just because of the tight space that we're working with. And then the next step we're going to do is we're going to get a drill bit that's just slightly larger than our fuel line is, and I think we're pretty close to 1/4 inch here. Yep, so we're going to do a 1/4 inch hole here. And I want my fuel pump sitting just inside here, so I'm going to take and put my line just above that. That's through that mounting board that we put in, And then we're going to take and feed a line in. And now that we've got that started, we'll go inside and pull that through, and then we'll cut it to length so that we can get our fuel pump mounted on the inside here. So let's go inside. Alright, so the kit that we got has the fuel pump here, and it also has this wonderful mounting bracket. And the fuel pump, it's kind of hard to make out, but there's an arrow right here that indicates the flow is this direction. So we want that to be pointed up toward the line going into our heater. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and slide this on here, and we want our electric port to be away from the wall so that we can get to that easily. And this mounting bracket is just a rubber bracket. So you just slide that up on there like that, and then we'll take one of the included screws and put through that hole there and put it on the wall there just below where we put the fuel line in. So over here you can see where our fuel line is coming through, so we're going to start by tugging that all the way through here. Just pull that in. I'm going to double check outside and make sure we don't have any kinks or knots in the line, and then we'll mount our fuel pump and cut the length. Alright, so it's a little too tight in here to be able to film and install that, so I had to go ahead and turn the camera off for a minute and get that installed off camera. But you can see right there, the fuel line comes in through the wall, comes into the fuel pump, and the instructions say that the fuel pump needs to be at no less than 45 degrees, so I'm a little closer to 90. And you can see the screw that goes through, holding that into that mounting plate. And while I was under here, I went ahead and hooked up our supply line. Both have their clamps, top and bottom. And this supply line, we're going to take it, and it's going to come through a hole over here where the propane used to come through. So I poked that down in there. This white plastic sleeve that's right here used to be on that propane line, and I just slid it up. We've got to disconnect the propane line from underneath of the camper, and we'll cap that off because that tees and goes to the stove as well, so we'll have to cap that. But at this point, we're ready to go under the camper and unhook the propane line and pull it out and pull the fuel supply line the rest of the way through. And then we'll take that, run the fuel supply line up alongside of the propane line up to the front where the fuel tank is going to be. So you can see right there where that line comes out of the underside of the camper and then tees into the rest that go to the water heater and to the stove. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect that and get that line removed. All right, there's that propane line disconnected. As you pull this out, you're gonna have to kind of flex it around. As you see, I put my fuel line in the end of the old propane line here, just a little bit, so that when I pulled one through, it pulled the other one through nice and clean for me. Now we'll just take and run this fuel line up along the old propane line with a zip tie in it together. I want these snug. We don't want it so tight that it's pinching off the fuel flow. So, all right, you can see I've got zip tied about every couple of feet. Got another one right up here. The hose that came with the kit also has this filter, but the line itself is not long enough, so I had to go to the auto parts store and get some additional line. And I'm going to just trace it up there. Alright, so the kit comes with this little nipple that you put into the tank. You have to drill a hole and then put it through from the inside to the outside, and it's got a rubber O-ring on the inside and a rubber O-ring on the outside there, as well as a nut. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole in the corner of my tank here. I want to just take this nice and easy so I don't have any issues with it cracking out. Like that. Then the fun part of this is I need to clean this up first, but the fun part is going to be getting this nipple to go all the way down to the bottom corner of the tank and go through. All of these little burrs definitely need to be cleaned up, and make sure they're clean to the outside of your tank so you don't have debris floating away around in your tank. But without getting the burrs off, then the rubber O-rings can't form a good seal. So the fight's on to get this nipple through that hole. So to get that through there, what I ended up doing is putting it on a piece of wire and then pulling that wire through like that. Now I've got that up to the threads here, and I'm going to need to just thread that through the hole, and then I can pull my wire back out to the top. I intentionally made my hole a little bit smaller than the dill so that the plastic could also help form some of the seal. So once I got that started, I had this little piece of hose here that I put just on the end so that I can twist this in without buggering up the nipple, putting burrs on it. We're just going to thread this in until it's good and tight, and then we'll put the outside O-ring and the keeper nut on. And now that I've got the nipple threaded through, I'm going to take the outside rubber O-ring and slide it up on that nipple there, and then the keeper nut, let's take and spin that down on, and let our keeper nut and our outside O-ring are on there. We're going to tighten this up, and this actually is a 12 millimeter. Some of the nuts on this have been 10 millimeter, but this particular one is a 12. So I'm going to snug that up. You can start to see that rubber O-ring squish down, and you don't want to tighten it up so much that it starts to cut it. Just want it good and snug. Alright, so here you can see where that is mounted. I've got a block sitting under it to position that tank, and also to help hold it so that it's not got all that weight of the fuel just hanging on the 4 bolts that go in the 4 holes. You can also see right here where the fuel line goes in. It's down on the bottom. It's not quite at the very bottom, and that's done intentionally so that if there happens to ever be any contaminants in the tank, it doesn't suck that into the pump. So on to electric. Alright, so here we are working on the electric. I've ran my line, and you see it back there. I just kind of drilled a hole and poked it through, and I've run that through. That actually goes under the master bed and up through a little storage compartment that's accessible from the outside. Then back here where the heater is, I need to hook up my line here to the positive and also to the negative here, And I'm going to purposely leave this long just in case I decide to make some modifications or add a second battery in the future. What I'm going to start by doing is just take and peel some of this wire cover back. And just be careful if you choose to use a knife, because it's really easy to cut through that and into the wire, and then you'll end up with a bare wire, which is not good for anyone. So, because this is black and white, what we'll do is we'll run the white to our positive cable, and our black will stay our negative cable. And we're going to start by stripping that white one here, like that. And for now, I'm just going to take and kind of thread these together like this, and give it a good twist together. I'll come back with some solder and a heat shrink once I've got everything kind of where I want it and it's working how I want. So now we'll go into our negative like so. Again, we're just going to push these kind of into each other like that, and then give them a twist to hold together. Like I said, once I have things where I want it and positioned the way I want it, then I'll come back with some heat shrink and solder. So this end, we've got that hooked up. We do need to go ahead, get back here and hook up the electric line to our fuel pump, which would be this clip here. That just slides down on there, and you hear the click, and that's on. So we're going to head up front to the battery compartment where we put our fuel tank, and we'll hook up the positive and negative to the battery, and we should be up and running. As far as electricity, then we'll need to put some fuel in our fuel tank and get our fuel line primed, and then we should be making heat. So we're up here in the front where the propane bottles used to sit and the fuel tank is. You can see this black box here, that's actually the battery box, and you can see where the electric line that we ran through comes out, and it goes through this provided hole already. And then we're going to go around here to the opening where the battery is at, and we'll hook up the lines direct to the battery. Okay, so we're up here in the front of the camper. We got the battery just sitting just out of the battery box here, and we're going to start with our negative. Want enough line that we can get that, or enough space so we can get the electric line, the negative supply, kind of underneath of this, and we'll just pinch that down in there. And then here on the positive, we're going to take and loosen these up. These are 7/16, and what we'll do with this is we'll just put our positive line up underneath here. Alright, that's all hooked up. Let's go see if we've got power inside. Alright, so as you can see here, we've got this control board power there. Battery is checking out good, so time to get some diesel in the tank and get it primed, and then we'll get some heat flowing. Let's get these duct pipes done up here. Two ducts aren't exactly the same size, so I'm going to have to make some modifications to the bigger one to make it fit. Do that. I'll take a couple of the rings here, crease them down bending in on themselves. Got that one hooked up. Got this one is hooked up still. We're going to do the same thing to this one. While we're right here finishing everything up, we're going to take some of these wires and tidy them up a little bit with the zip ties. Moment of truth. Let's find out if this will turn on and make heat. I've taken the control panel and mounted it above the old thermostat so it looks somewhat normal here. We'll go ahead and turn it on. You can see we got power. Now on. You can hear the fuel pump starting to run, pumping some fuel into the cylinder or into the burn chamber. And there's ignition. Thank you all for following along today as I installed that diesel heater. Please don't forget to subscribe, to like, and to comment.